The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And we are back after a holiday weekend, and a very exciting holiday it was.
Well, you know, every year we hear the complaints about the fireworks wasn't long enough, they weren't good, blah, 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 blah. And somebody came back and said something, which I got to give them a little bit of credit for, but I don't want to say a lot of credit. They said, you people complain about this all the time. You don't realize fireworks are more expensive now. They get more and more expensive every year. And the city has to make the decision on making the show larger and costing more or cutting the show down just to keep the expenses where they're at. So that's what's happening. They're cutting the time down. So this past fireworks was 15 to 20 minutes, and people weren't happy about it. And that 15 to 20 minutes were also breaks in the fireworks, dead time. So my personal opinion is go back to the 70s, the 80s, when the businesses in Fall River paid for those and the city didn't.
Yeah, but we don't have any business to pay anymore thanks to Couganomics and the way they handle the city. They've run virtually all the mom and pop stuff out of existence, so you can't do that. But I have to disagree. My opinion is, listen, they're blowing money on all kinds of stuff. Movies and parades and everything else. And so if you really want a good fireworks display,
you pay for it.
You pay for it. You have it or you don't have it. If it's going to be crap, don't have it.
Right.
That's the way, to me.
And that's what this person said.
And 4th of July is an important holiday to most of us. Not to all the ones who wanted to disparage the country. And they said they're going to revoke their citizenship, which is only I wish they would, because they won't. All these rich wokies do is talk about it. And I'll tell you, it was a very exciting weekend for me, but it was even better when I saw that, when I really saw, really today, this weekend, if I said the highlight of everything and the hypocrisy of the wokies, it did my heart good. And you can call me cruel. I don't care. To see that basketball player locked up in Russia, begging, writing letters, "Dear Mr. President, please get me back to the United States." The same one that took a knee for the flag. They all take a knee, they all pump their fists, they all burn the flag. But when they're in trouble, the country that they hate so much, they'll be on the southern border with all the rest of them, trying to sneak back in. And of course, wokey President Bimbo or Biden, that's right, I'm sorry. Of course, he's going to do everything he can for her because she's a wokey. She's a lefty. And her and her wife I'm tired of being quiet. They're going to get her back. They're going to get her back to what? The country that sucks? The country that you're always disparaging? The country that you think is worthless? All of a sudden, you got to get back here? And if they do get you back, which actually I think she should probably remain in Russia, and consider herself lucky she didn't get arrested in China.
Right.
Because it would have been a lot worse. But if you do get back here, you better keep your mouth shut. But you won't. You won't, because you're all hypocrites and liars. You have one set of rules for yourself, and the other said, you hate this country, but I'll tell you what, when you're looking for protection, this is where you want to be. So I had to get that one, and I'm glad we started off with that one.
Yeah, no,
because that really, I was actually happy to see that letter.
Yeah.
And somebody should write her a letter back saying, hey, this is the country you don't like that much.
And the worst part about it is she's in there at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Because
We're at war.
we're at war. Now, we're not at war with Russia.
Proxy war.
It's by proxy because we're the ones spending all the money.
Yeah.
No other country is spending as much money as we are. Yeah. I think they just sent another $85 million or something. I mean, we're gonna be.
They're like Paul. They don't care about the people, the taxpayers. They don't care about the taxpayers.
Right.
They're like Cougs. Cougs is cutting a ribbon today, right?
Yeah, he was cutting the ribbon over at the Chik-Fil-A restaurant. And guess what he did? He blocked off all the handicap spaces.
Poor people, handicapped people. He doesn't care about the regular
That's right.
people. He doesn't
That's
care.
right.
Just like affordable housing. They had a thing at the Baptist thing, and he was there talking about. He doesn't care. Market rate. That's all they want. Market rate where they can make money. All his friends, all his rich friends. You know, Kenny, all the boys. There's a rumor to the effect that Kenny was heard to say something like, when somebody said, "What about affordable housing?" He says, "I'm going to just keep building market rate housing." Why? Because that's where all my friends make money and I make money. And then I guess somebody. This is, of course, this is secondhand. I'm not saying. It's alleged that he said it. He said, "What are you going to do with the people that you displace?" He said, "Let them go live in Brockton or New Bedford."
Right.
That's how much they care about the average person in Fall River. He's out there cutting a ribbon. We had a shooting, right, over the weekend?
Yes, we did, right next to me.
We had a shooting. But cut the ribbon for Chik-Fil-A. Go cut the ribbon, have a movie, get another parade. Be the recreational director of the city of Fall River again, because that's what you are.
Now,
you have no leadership.
Here's the thing. He's always talking about business, business, business. We need to bring more businesses, more businesses, more businesses. How about bringing business that gives something back to Fall River? Chick-fil-A is not going to give back. The money's not going to stay here. The money's going to leave. The money's going to go to wherever the owner of this store is located. It's not going to stay here.
A couple of barely above minimum wage jobs.
Right, and we're going to get property taxes in the city, which is fine. That's great for the mayor. But there's no. It's not like a mom and pop place. It's not like the old bakeries that used to be on every street corner. It's not like, when you went to the store and the guy used to have a book that he'd keep your account in, and at the end of the week you pay the bill. Remember those days?
Of course I do. I remember that my parents, the places they shopped, they would shop during a week and they put it in the book, and at the end of the week when they got paid, they'd go and pay all that stuff.
That's right.
But look, if they put the knowledge that Paul Coogan has about economics, okay, it would be like a pebble in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, because he knows nothing about the economy. We got to bring in business. We brought in one of the biggest businesses in the world, Amazon. What did it do for Fall River? Nothing. Anybody with a half a brain, which excludes you, by the way, knows that medium-sized and small cities are driven by small business.
That's right.
Not large business. And small business is community-based. It's neighborhood-based. It's fueled by people who live in the neighborhood. And the people in our neighborhoods don't have any money. They've driven all these businesses out. You don't have a bunch of small businesses. Is this a theory? No, it's not a theory. It's a fact. That's why Newton has 3 times the amount of businesses Fall River does. Why? Why should Newton have 3 times the? It's a little smaller, a couple thousand, maybe. Now our population gone up, maybe 5 or 6,000. We have more people, which should mean we have a better economy, but we don't. Why has Newton got 3 times the businesses? Because capitalism, the market will bear it. There's not even workplaces in Newton for the most part, because they don't have any like working factories or stuff like we have, where people might have to go out for lunch somewhere if they don't brown bag it. No, it's a bedroom community for rich people who work in the Boston area. That's why that's why the household and per capita income is 4.5 times what it is in Fall River. The reason that they have all those businesses is because they have people who can support those businesses. But has the city done anything? No. But does Paul Coogan care about rents and the displacement of people? Everybody's talking about it. You got Mitchell over in New Bedford talking about affordable housing. You got all of Rhode Island opening up affordable housing. As I said before, I heard, I was in the audience when they brought Maura Healey there to give a speech at the Macros convention, and she said, we have an unaffordability crisis in Massachusetts. The average people cannot afford to live in the state of Massachusetts. Apparently the only person on the planet Earth, because this is nationwide, but it's worse in communities like ours, the only person in the universe that doesn't understand this is Paul Coogan, the only mayor. I know that Kenny Fiola understands it, but he just doesn't care.
Right.
That's it. The bottom line is, I'm not saying Kenny Fiola doesn't know this, but he doesn't care.
Right, because he's
just let him go live somewhere else.
Yeah, because remember, he gets all the money from the city for economic development. He gets all the money from the developers because they're the ones that get the TIFs and the ties for these properties, okay? Which means they don't pay taxes.
Yeah. But we pay their taxes.
We pay their taxes.
Thank you.
But obviously, Kenny's got to be getting something for getting those TIFs and ties, whether it be a percentage or something. So all that money's going to him, or quote unquote, his company, whoever that is. But we're not getting anything out of it. The city isn't getting anything out of it. Do you know in Rhode Island, a mayor in Rhode Island made an announcement that he was not happy about making, but he knew it had to be made? He turned around and said, this is not an announcement I want to make, especially at this time of year. He said, but we must downsize city government. And as such, we're going to start going through each department and cutting personnel and expenses.
Wow. And what are we doing in Fall River? We're upsizing it.
Right.
We're upsizing.
Right.
But when you get in that, you and I had a conversation about a rental advertisement.
Yes.
Would you tell our audience about how out of touch, and this is what they're turning Fall River into?
Yep. It was really interesting because it was for I believe it was a 2-bedroom apartment. I can't remember the ad, and I couldn't print it out for some reason. But you had to have an income exceeding $100,000 a year. Okay? You had to have $10,000 liquid cash in the bank. You had to have a credit rating of 740 plus, and you had to have the first, last, and security deposit for the rent.
Well, that excluded 98.6% of the city of Fall River,
That's right.
did it? I guess the only people that can rent that are Paul Coogan, Kenny Fiola, and his banker, lawyer, and developer friends. But they don't have to rent anything because they got a boatload of money. This is what they're bringing into the city of Fall River. So what's going to be their new mantra? You can't make the rent, buy a tent. I guess that's what it is, right?
I think that's
Paul should probably give a speech like that. You can't afford the rent, buy a tent.
Yep.
Because I'm doing market rate housing. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? That's what Paul said. I want you to be a mayor. I want you to look around and get your head out of your derriere and see what everybody else is doing. Pay attention. Do you ever watch the news? Have you heard of something called inflation, shrinkflation, recession that's coming? Do you ever remember that the people in this city have less than half the average income of the state of Massachusetts? That's the majority of the people. Do you realize when you went to that Flint Neighborhood Association meeting and they said, we want to keep this community, this neighborhood together? What you're doing, you and your friends, are displacing the entire neighborhood because nobody that lives in an apartment in the Flint can afford market rate housing.
That's right. But that's what he wants to do with the
But you
buildings.
don't care. And if you pretend to care, that's disingenuous best and flat out immoral to me.
Bull.
It is.
You know, I like the way you talk about this because we talked about this last time. He went to a couple of market rate housing developments.
Yeah.
And he saw license plates from Connecticut and New York. And he says, that's all people bringing money right here into Fall River. Where are you delusional? There are no restaurants that people want to go to. The one complaint I hear all the time from people who've moved to Fall River is, where can I get a good Italian restaurant? And everyone says the same thing.
Federal
Hill.
Federal Hill.
Yep. They said if you want a cheap Italian restaurant, you go to Somerset to Mar Office.
Yeah.
Okay? Or you go to New Bedford to Par Office.
Or to Riccati's.
Or go to Riccati's in Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you want a good Italian restaurant, go to Federal Hill. Okay? It's the same thing with good pizza. People want like really good pizza. Go to the north end of Boston. Great Italian food there. Great pizzas in the north end of Boston.
Federal Hill too.
Federal Hill too. Great. I mean, Caserta pizza.
Caserta's.
Oh yeah. Great
There's
pizza.
a place called Cecilia's too on Federal Hill. It's got the best thin crust pizza on the hill.
So, I mean, this is where these people are going. We don't have a theater. We have a movie theater, but we don't have a theater. These people want theaters. So where do they go? They go to New Bedford, to the Zeiterion, or they go to Providence.
Yeah, P-PAC.
To P-PAC.
Yep.
Okay? We don't have a concert venue. So where do they go? The Dunk in Providence. Or they go to the Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Providence.
Yeah.
There's nothing in Fall River to do.
And there never will be.
We don't have a nightlife. It's not like in the 70s when we had, bars and clubs on every street corner. I can remember the Camelot Inn. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Downtown.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble there.
Yep, that's where Tommy McCabe got shot, actually.
Yeah.
Shot dead because he was a bouncer there. But look, it's never going to happen.
Right.
And you know why?
We don't have money.
Politicians.
Right.
Because everybody we've elected has never really dealt with the issue. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation about this weekend. He said, well, what happened? What happened to the Fall River you knew? He said, it was somebody from out of town. I said, tell me about the Fall River you grew up in. So I told him, I said, there were 9 restaurants between Stafford Square and Bogle Hill, just in the Flint. Every single store was occupied and thriving. Why? Because everybody had a job. Right. They either worked in the mills, they worked on construction, but everybody had a job. The mills left, and nobody thought to retrain the people to get jobs. Our economy failed. Now we have everybody who was employable moved out of the city because the city began to deteriorate. And herein lies the problem, at least in my opinion. When you elected a politician, they're there temporarily. So they're there only temporarily to get a paycheck and pretend that they care. And that's what they're doing. They're pretending. So they come up with all these short-term fixes. Urban renewal, market rate housing. Didn't work in Detroit, doesn't work anywhere. They've tried it. Didn't work in Baltimore. They tried urban renewal in Baltimore. They tried market rate housing in Baltimore and in Detroit. Doesn't work. But that's the political promises, short-term promise. Oh, the waterfront's going to save Fall River. The Derby horses are going to save Fall River. Battleship Cove is going to save Fall River. Everything's saving Fall River, and it hasn't been saved. Why? Because they're all liars, and they know the only way to get Fall River back is to build it back one brick at a time. And the first thing you have to do is attack the crime, the drug problem, the educational problem, and begin to retrain its workforce. Get the people who need help. Get the people who can't get a job and want to work, train them. Get them jobs. Give them affordable housing. Welfare is not forever for people who really want to succeed. Virtually every year, right here at Bristol Community College, there's someone who was a single mother, had to drop out of high school, got a GED, or went back to high school, now graduates from college and goes on for another degree and's got a successful life. Welfare wasn't a handout. It was a hand up. It was a handout to them. It wasn't just giving them money and they're going to stay there forever. It helped them get over the bump. No, they don't do that. You've never seen a mayor say, I got a 10-year plan for Fall River. I got a 10-year plan how to spend your money, but I don't have a 10-year plan how to fix the economy. It's the people who live in the community. Their answer is build a whole bunch of market rate housing, and everybody, they're going to gentrify the city, and all of these people are going to move away, and their problem is solved. Because we're going to have 98,000 woke yuppies living in Fall River. Well, like you said, those number one, Paul, I hate to tell you this, better go talk to the police chief. Every one of those cars is illegal if they're living in Fall River after 30 days because they're supposed to register their cars in the state of Massachusetts. If they're driving around and parking in those parking spots every night and they've been living there, their cars are registered illegally. You can't have insurance in another state if you're a resident here. You have to have this insurance. That's number one. But they don't care about the law. They didn't care about violating the law to pay your people. You didn't get the city council approved. You paid them. You approved a budget that misappropriated money. You guys don't care. But you don't care about fixing the city. The city will never be fixed till we get a mayor in there that says, okay, we got to bite the bullet, make the government lean, give people a little bit more money to spend to begin to attract those businesses because they'll never come. I don't care how many New York, New Jersey, Hawaii plates you got parked in some market rate housing thing. It'll hit the wall like it did everywhere else, and it's not going to work. But they're not going to support it because they're not going to go to a brand new business in Fall River. Neighborhoods support those businesses. That's what they did. When you had Shalmore Furniture, who bought from Shalmore Furniture? Everybody that lived in a Flint.
Yeah.
And they had the same book you talked about.
That's right.
You could go to Shalmore, put some money down, and pay the thing by the month.
That's right.
Or the week.
And when I was living in the Pine Street area, which was a nice area back then, we used to shop at Bedford Furniture.
Yep.
And they used to have the little index cards, and that's how you would pay. And you were expected to come in every week. They didn't come banging on your door, but, if you didn't show up one week, they'd give you a phone call or they'd come knock on your door and ask what happened. I was sick, whatever. But, yeah, those days are gone. Yeah. Those days are long gone. I mean, we don't have a lot of small variety stores anymore. Remember when all the variety stores were owned by mom and pops? They were all there? Not anymore. Now they're 7-Eleven. Now they're, Speedway.
Yeah. All we got are people who are carpetbaggers. The politicians are because look how many politicians stayed in Fall River after they weren't mayor anymore.
Right.
Ed Lambert doesn't live in Fall River anymore.
Dartmouth, I believe.
Dartmouth, yeah, of course. Paul Coogan, when he's no longer, he moved back in just to run for office, and when he's done, he's going to take his truckload of carpet bags with all the money, and he's going to bail out to somewhere else, to greener pastures. People are going to come to Fall River and stay, like you said, number one in crime, failing education system, drugs all over the place. Get real. These people are conning you. But it gets back to the old thing. 14% of the people, and 12% of that 14% of political ticks, control who we get elected. People got to get out a year November and clean house because these people do not have any answers to the problem. The answers to the problem is not cutting a ribbon at Chik-Fil-A because, as you said, the money doesn't stay here. Your own damn people don't stay here. The CFO's not from Fall River.
Warwick.
The administrative assistant's not from Fall River.
Swansea, Rehoboth.
Nobody works here. How are you going to support businesses in Fall River? What does Amazon do? 98% of Amazon doesn't live in the city of Fall River. They go to work at Amazon, they go home and spend money in their own communities. That's the thing. You got to have people who see, that's how simple it is. Even for you. Somebody who got a paycheck for walking around with his hands in his pockets and high-fiving kids. Maybe you can understand this. The reason that the communities these people go back to survive is that those communities have people with money to keep businesses in business and that community afloat. This community, you are working against the people of Fall River. Your administration has been the most anti-Fall River, average Fall River resident administration I have ever seen in my life, and that's a long time in politics. I have never seen an administration with such a callous and total disregard for the average people in Fall River.
And we see this going back 30, 40 years. We have the same people on the city council, at least two, that were on the city council 30 years ago. And what change have you seen? None. As a matter of fact, it's worsened. But you keep electing these people. You keep electing this city council. All of these people on the city council, except for one, Michelle Dion, are all in the mayor's pocket. They all love the mayor. They're all kissing his backside. And this is what happens. And when you have a city council that does not exercise its authority and its rights under the law, you get a government which is weak. You have a mayor who has, this is a strong mayor city, but the city council controls the money. The city council controls the appointments. The city council is not supposed to be friendly with the mayor. The city council president is not supposed to be friendly with the mayor. The city council vice president is doing her job. She's fighting for the taxpayer. This is what you have to elect. Same thing in the school committee. You're electing people that are just falling in line with the mayor, except for Kevin Aguirre and on occasion Paul Hart. But you've put everyone else in there that fall in line with the mayor. And what happens? We just keep spending money there. We spend money like a drunken sailor. We're spending money in the city of Fall River like a drunken sailor. And nobody's stopping it because that's all Paul knows. That's all he knows. Spend, 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 spend. Oh, you want a $4,000 raise? Nah, no problem. Have it. It's yours.
Yes.
Oh, you want a $5,000 stipend? It's yours. No problem.
$16,000, $20,000.
$16,000 pay raise? It's yours. No problem.
Well, you're 100% right, CJ. The problem is that we have some people on that council who should know better because they've been there for decades.
Right.
You would think if they really had the public interest at heart, they would go, wait a minute, we already tried that like 3 times and it didn't work. I'm not going to vote for that again. And they do.
Right.
And they do. And as you said, they don't do their job. They advocate their authority to the mayor. They just say, okay. Now you look at it. Just remember what happened in the city council meeting. Michelle Dion talked about a way to save the taxpayers money, invest $15 million. It was like she was in a room by herself.
Right.
There wasn't a word. Everybody in the well from the city just ignored it like she never said it. And the entire rest of the council were like, they were mum. They were like the monkeys. See nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. That's it. They were like the monkeys. It shows their disregard for the people of Fall River. And I know the people of Fall River that watch this show. They watch it just to throw tomatoes at the screen or something and stick pins in voodoo dolls, but we're not going to go away. I'm telling you right now, these people do not care about you.
That's it. And this is what we get. You get the government you deserve. And Fall River does not deserve the type of government we have right now. The city of Fall River does not deserve its elected officials. They deserve much better. The only elected official Fall River deserves is Michelle Dion. And let me tell you something. She's going to fight till her dying breath. And she may be the only one. But guess what? When she turns around and says, I told you so, you knew that it was coming. You knew it was coming. And for the mayor to turn around and say, I'd rather bond for that money than take it out of the ARPA funds, that's free money, bond money, you pay interest. Guess what? What does he care? Well, everyone, I want to thank you all for watching. It's going to be a tough week. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Friday.